we was at the point where we were looking at, excuse me, other companies just regarding SEO, Google Ads, social media in general. We have been doing it in-house, and it's kind of passed from kind of one person to another. We weren't necessarily kind of experts in it by any stretch, and it did start to feel we was kind of dabbling in parts and we could do with some help. I think the difficulty we found is the companies that we were speaking to, they tended to mystify a lot of things, especially around SEO and all the reports and stats. And sometimes it kind of felt like they were mystifying it so much just to kind of justify the high fees that they were also proposing. The webinar with yourself that Rob set up, you know, that kind of, you just kept things simple, which kind of really stood out for me in the first instance. And then obviously from there, you know, we've had a chat, and yeah, we've got the ball rolling.
Yeah, brilliant. So in terms of stats, are we okay just sharing with the community about what you did 2 months before? So and then obviously we started in April, didn't we? So if you can, if you're you're right.
Yeah, so
that's just to give the logical brain of the
yeah, so the 2 months leading up to working with you, we had budgets. We'd only put kind of a budget of £600 behind the Google spend. Again, to put that into context, we've got that was over kind of 3 or 4 offices, stroke areas. We weren't necessarily being specific with the adverts, our keywords and landing pages, all things we know now that yeah, we worked with you and you've reviewed our account.
Yeah.
In reality, I had a look, and we, in terms of kind of Valpal leads, which is what we're aiming to get now, we only had 40 Valpal leads during that time. But the reality is most of those didn't actually come from the Google Ads. In terms of Google Ads conversions, for the £600 that we spent, we only actually had 2 conversions. So I guess it was more brand awareness than actually, yeah, converting into Valpal and instant valuations that we're now getting. Again, to put that into context now, like since working with you the last couple of months, we've actually had 174 Valpal leads rather than the 40. Google say we've had 191 conversions, again, rather than the 2. And don't get me wrong, we've had to increase our budget to do that, but we've had the confidence to increase our budget now that we're working with you and we know what we do. Again, instead of £300 for the per conversion that we were getting before, you know, the 191 at £4,000, you're looking at just kind of £20 a conversion there. So yeah, dramatically different to what we were doing when we were dabbling at it, I suppose, before we got involved with UP.
Yeah, I think it's a confidence thing, isn't it? I mean, you know, I keep saying I'm a converted, you know, I'm an ex-agent, so I've sat on both sides of the fence, you know, to try and make it as really simple as possible. And they'll, you know.
I think you're right. I think it's like we've looked at, you know, you're obviously regularly reviewing our account, and there's a couple of areas that aren't performing as well as others in terms of those actual conversions, but it's reassuring to know that even on those areas, we are actually doing everything we need to be doing. Perhaps it is just people aren't searching for those keywords in those areas, but when they do, we know we're appearing 80, 90% of the time. So that reassurance is definitely a good thing. I think before we would have looked to try and change something because that area wasn't getting as much as the other areas, but in reality, again, you've given us that confidence to know we've just got to stick at it and kind of bide our time.
Yeah, it is a journey, and it's not like stick up an ad and hope and pray. There's a little bit of thought behind it, and not every client is worth spending money on. Like there is an argument about obviously going after tenant applications and buyer applications, but they're not at the same value as someone who wants to sell their house or have Googled how much is my house worth. So
yeah,
you know, it's just about sort of segmenting the audiences more than anything else. But I think we're getting into the weeds of it now. But so in terms of leads, obviously, have you had any instructions and sort of have you got any sort of early results? Because obviously, bearing in mind that as you've already identified, and I think it's a good conversation to have about the nurturing sequence. But Can we?
Yeah, we've always known that the instant valuations, it's not always an instant win, is it? You're not necessarily going to get out. Yeah, you're not necessarily going to get out to every MA, and those MAs aren't always going to come into instruction straight away. Again, it is normally a longer term game, which can be, 3 months through to 9 months. What we're making sure we're doing via life cycle is nurturing all of these leads, even the incomplete leads. So the leads that we're getting that haven't completed the form, we've perhaps just got the address, but we will send postcards out to those addresses. So
Love it.
Again, trying to make the most of the money that we spent, really. But there has been some quick wins, which is good. I think between a few of the offices, there's been about 10 valuations in the last couple of months. There's been a few instructions as well. And those instructions are probably worth, well, once sold and completed, going to be worth about kind of 14 grand. So again, it's, if you look at the 4 grand that we've spent on the actual adverts, that 14 grand, if and when it comes in, will be a good return on the investment. And again, that's 10 vowels, 3 instructions, let's say. But like we said, there's 174 leads, 191 conversions. So there's a lot more being nurtured. Absolutely. For that 4 grand that will hopefully come out, later down the line.